Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. Today, we are going to master absolutely one of the ultimate personal finance hacks out there, the holiday sinking fund. Look, if you've ever felt that awful pit in your stomach come January when all those massive credit card bills start rolling in, well, this one is entirely for you. We're going to completely transform how you save, protect, and ultimately spend your money during the absolute most expensive time of the entire year. All right, here is our itinerary for today. First, the holiday debt problem. Second, what is a sinking fund? Then, emergency versus sinking funds. 4, calculating your target. 5, automate and label. And finally, number 6, guilt-free spending. Let's dive right in.
Kicking things off with Section 1, the holiday debt problem, or what we can essentially call reactive financial panic. I want you to think about this for a second. Why do we act so completely surprised by an expense that occurs on the exact same day every single year? I mean, December 25th is literally a fixed point on the calendar. We know for a fact it's coming, yet instead of preparing for it, a huge portion of the population treats holiday shopping like an unforeseen medical bill or, a sudden car breakdown. We panic, we pull out high-interest credit cards, and we completely derail our budgets. It makes no sense.
And because we constantly rely on this reactive budgeting, 65% of American adults cite money as a primary source of stress. According to our source data, this financial anxiety causes a massive cognitive drag. People without dedicated savings buffers actually spend over 7 hours a week just obsessing and stressing over their finances. That's almost a full working day every single week, significantly reducing daily productivity and overall health. That is a truly massive toll for an expense we could easily see coming from a mile away. Which leads us perfectly into Section 2, what is sinking fund? Anticipatory allocation. The definition itself is simple, but the history behind it is actually kind of fascinating. The term sinking fund originally comes from the 18th century corporate and municipal finance world. Back then, when a company issued a massive bond, they'd create a dedicated fund to gradually sink or pay down that principal over time. That way, they wouldn't face a massive liquidity crisis when the debt finally matured. Today, we're basically taking this incredibly powerful corporate secret and translating it into a dedicated savings vehicle for your predictable personal expenses. So a sinking fund forces a really massive perspective shift. You have to start recognizing that an expense due in, say, 10 months is actually a financial obligation you are incurring today. It's like taking a mountainous, totally overwhelming bill, like a huge holiday shopping spree, and breaking it down into a really smooth, highly manageable monthly line item in your budget. Let's move on to Section 3, emergency versus sinking, why you absolutely must separate your funds. Okay, so this is where a lot of budgeters actually trip up. An emergency fund is your shield against the unknown unknowns. We're talking strictly unpredictable crisis here. A sudden job loss, an urgent medical event, maybe a tree falls on your roof. A sinking fund, on the other hand, is entirely for the known knowns. These are guaranteed or at least highly likely expenses. Holiday gifts, annual car registrations, property taxes. You know without a doubt they are coming. Conflating these two pools of capital is actually a primary driver of overall budget failure. Think about it. If you dip into your true emergency fund to buy Christmas presents, well, what happens when your car's transmission actually blows out in January? You're forced right back into relying on high-interest credit cards. So strict separation of these funds isn't just a nice idea. It is a mandatory procedure if you want a truly resilient financial life. All right, let's get into the math. Section 4, calculating your target with linear contribution. Let's say you sit down, review last year's statements, and decide your total holiday budget for gifts, travel, and food is $1,200. Using the linear model, you simply divide that total estimated cost by the 12 months until the deadline. That gives you a nice base target of $100. But professional planners always suggest adding a 10 to 15% buffer for inflation or, those unexpected last-minute gift exchanges. So let's add $15 to be safe. So for a $1,200 holiday budget, your target is simply $115 a month. That is a highly, highly manageable operational expense. Instead of getting hit with a shocking $1,200 credit card bill in January, you just have a smooth, predictable $115 automated transfer happening each month. It's completely painless. Next up is Section 5, automate and label, the tactical implementation phase. Following this incredibly simple 3-step procedure ensures that you always pay yourself first. First, you're going to open a completely separate high-yield savings account. By making sure it's high yield, your money is actually earning 3 to 5% interest while it just sits there waiting. Second, label it specifically. And third, and honestly most importantly, automate the transfer to hit the day after your paycheck clears, way before you ever have the chance to spend that capital on something else.
This specific setup leverages a really cool behavioral economics concept called mental accounting, which was pioneered by Nobel laureate Richard Thaler. The research proves that giving every single dollar a specific job, like physically naming the account holidays, emotionally protects that money. If the cash is just sitting in a generic savings account, you might easily be tempted to use it for a spontaneous dinner out. But if you have to consciously withdraw from a fund explicitly labeled kids' Christmas presents, wow, that creates a massive psychological barrier against impulsive spending.
And finally, we arrive at Section 6, guilt-free spending, the ultimate objective of this whole system. As recent research from Vanguard so clearly demonstrates, maintaining these dedicated liquid buffers doesn't just protect your wallet, it absolutely protects your mind. Having a dedicated savings plan yields a massive 34% increase in your overall psychological well-being compared to folks who are living completely reactively. You are literally buying yourself peace of mind. Pre-funding your holidays allows you to engage in what economists are now calling soft saving. It gives you the ultimate flexibility to shop early. Because your money is already accumulating by, say, July, you can actually leverage summer sales for December gifts. You avoid high-interest loans entirely, and most importantly, you get to actually enjoy the season, the travel, and the giving, completely free of that toxic post-holiday financial regret. So ultimately, you are completely shifting your core relationship with capital. You're moving away from reactive panic, where life just feels like an endless series of unexpected, highly stressful expenses, into a state of true, confident intentionality. Now, every single future obligation has a pre-funded, stress-free solution waiting for it. Knowing for an absolute fact that December 25th is inevitable, are you ready to open your very first sinking fund and take total control of your year-end finances? Seriously, take just 5 minutes today to set up that automated transfer. But I want to leave you with this final thought. If you are no longer spending 7 hours a week totally stressed out about year-end credit card bills, what in the world are you going to do with all that reclaimed time? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you in the next one.